Turn to our Abuja studio, where the former Secretary FCT Transport is also a former Commissioner for Transport in Lagos and former Special Advisor to the Lagos State Governor Kayode Opeifa is standing by. Mr. Opeifa, let's begin with the intervention that is being talked about in light of the removal of fuel subsidy. How does government wade in without also providing subsidy in the transportation sector?
I didn't get you right.
I'm asking that how does government wade in the area of transportation without repeating the payment of subsidy in that sector?
Okay, thank you very much. First, let me explain that the sector that is going to be mostly affected and that could cause a lot of ripples would be the transportation sector. Let me say the energy sector, and this goes into the home energy usage and the transportation energy usage. And this is because any effect in transport prices will cascade into all other sectors. So what government needs to do is nothing new than what has been practiced before and has been successful. Is to engage in the provision of mass transit policy. I said policy, not buses. When I said mass transport policy, is to develop a framework for mass transit, intra-city, intrastate mass transit systems that is well-funded, using mass transit buses. If we are able to put that in place, what we have is you will be returning some money, let me use that word, into the pockets of people who use it. Those who will not be able to afford the increased fuel pump price will have an alternative to use the mass transit buses. And by so doing, we'll be able to make some savings to take care of other needs. And there are workable models that government can use in this process. The other thing is to encourage conversion of our vehicles to use CNG gases, and if they can do that, incentivize it, that will also assist. Also, government can also further invest in the rolling stocks for the rail, so that in cities where you have rail running across the city, we can also run intra-city rail along the same corridor, just like Lagos State government is partnering with Nigerian Railway Corporation to run an intra-city rail on the Lagos-Abeokuta corridor. And if these are put in place, properly put in place, in form of a detailed policy framework to create a system that has a definite and well-defined processes, I think it will be sustainable.
Sounds like a long-term policy. Do you foresee the actualization of these alternative implementation of all of these interventions we've talked about in the short term in such a way that Nigerians who are feeling the heat will experience some relief?
Yeah, what I described is short to medium term, and at the same time, it can be further. There is already a framework that are workable. Lagos State government, for example, has a workable intra-city plan that can be leveraged upon. Also, during the 2012 pump price increase, between 2012 and 2015, the federal government also developed a framework which culminated in the funding of mass transit manufacturing plants in Nigeria. You have Ashok Leland in Lagos, Ojo, where you used to have Volkswagen. You have Leland somewhere in Ibadan. And these two companies manufacture a lot of buses. In fact, the air-conditioned bus that was introduced in Lagos around that period, Metro bus, was manufactured by Leland in Ibadan. Then you also have, I think, Steer in Bauchi, NTM in Kano, Aramco in Anambra. And what the government did then was to pre-purchase some of these buses by giving them grants to produce, and there is assurance of purchase. And I'm quite aware that these manufacturing plants are still producing. That's one way. If we are to bring in, and also we have an Innocent in the southeastern part of the country also, and Innocent is still producing. So on the short run, we can mop up all the buses available. We also have Land Shitu Motors and so many others who have also invested in mass transit buses. So whatever is available, we can mop up and take that on the short run. And within the next 60 to 90 days, you can then get into the medium term with some of these companies producing more buses. I believe that can be done in the short run. The other things is to look at the CNG conversion. If we have the kits already on ground, that can be incentivized. And then another thing can be what Lagos State government did during the cash Naira exchange thing by making the buses available at a reasonable price. There are so many models, and I think government will have to sit with transport management experts. This was discussed at one of the meetings, I think that was yesterday, by the Charter Institute of Transport and Logistics via a Zoom meeting, and which was well attended. So commissioners of states can be called together to liberate. Then another thing that could be done immediately is also what Lagos did in 2012. A meeting was called with the transport unions, and the appropriate pricing was negotiated instead of just this jacketed tripling and a doubling of rates. They need to sit down, look at all the rules. The increment in fuel price is going to be per vehicle, and as such should not be just transferred in a proportional way, in a direct proportional way to the passengers. It can be worked around, and an indirect proportional calculation can be done. I think then it was increased by 100%, and we came down that no bus fare should go more than 28 to 30%, and the unions accepted. This can be implemented in states that are heavily affected: Lagos, Kaduna, Rivers State, and the federal capital.
Sounds like there are quite a number of options that government can explore in the area of intervention. Well, government is under intense pressure as we speak. All eyes on that meeting ongoing at Aso Villa to see whether or not both labor union leaders and federal government delegation can now reach a truce. Thank you so much for your contribution, Kayode Opeifa, former Secretary of FCT Transport and former Commissioner for Transport in Lagos. Thank you for talking to us tonight.
Very much.